Welcome to another deep dive with us. Buckle up, because today we're going on a wild ride through the history of food.
And when I say history, we're not just talking about what people ate.
Oh, definitely not.
We're going to dig into how food
Shaped everything.
shaped civilizations. Yeah.
Economics,
Yeah.
even our biology.
It's a story of human ingenuity, how we adapted, and this,
Constant back and
like
forth
advance.
with nature and culture, all through food.
Yeah.
Our guide for this delicious deep dive is this article.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascinating one.
It's called The History of Food, From Prehistoric Diets to the Future of Eating.
I mean, just the title
Okay.
gets me hungry.
Me too, for knowledge, though.
It's going to be a feast for the mind, that's for sure. One of the things that always gets me is
What's that?
how much food tells us about, who we are, where we came from.
And where we might be going.
That's all there, and what we eat.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock way back, way back, to our earliest ancestors.
Oh, I love this part.
Picture them. No grocery stores.
Forget grocery stores.
No restaurants. Just wide open space.
And a rumbling stomach.
What did they eat? What was even on the menu back then in prehistoric times?
So, long before agriculture, right? Humans were these nomadic hunter-gatherers. They lived in small groups and roamed around.
Makes sense. Got to follow the food.
Exactly. And their diets, super diverse.
Really. I always just imagine meat, and more meat.
Well, that was part of it for some, but it really depended on where they lived.
Oh, so location, location, location.
Exactly. Like early humans in Africa, they had all these fruits and nuts, seeds, roots.
Soaking up the sun and the abundance.
Yeah, their diets were mostly plant-based.
Makes sense, right? Lots of sunshine, lots of plants.
But if you go to colder regions, up north, Europe, North America,
It's a different story.
completely. It's all about big game hunting. Mammoths,
Oh, wow.
bison, reindeer. You got to get those calories to survive.
Can you imagine a mammoth steak?
Mm-hmm.
That's a serious protein shake.
It's amazing to think about, right? What they figured out just to survive.
It's mind-blowing. But I'm curious, was there a moment, like a turning point, where things changed?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a big one. About 1.5 million years ago, humans discover fire, and they figure out cooking.
Okay, now this I've always been fascinated by.
It's huge.
Cooking, it seems so simple, but I've heard it was a game changer. Like, how so?
Well, first off, cooking makes food safer to eat. Kills off bacteria and whatnot.
Right, makes sense.
But here's the biggie. It unlocks nutrients.
Really?
Yeah, cooked food is easier to digest, meaning our ancestors got more energy from the same food.
So cooked food equals more brain power.
Basically. And that extra energy, scientists think, fueled brain development.
Wow.
Gave them a massive advantage, helped them survive, and ultimately,
Led to us.
to us. It's mind-blowing, right?
It really is, to think something as simple as cooking had such a huge impact
On
human evolution.
Exactly. And speaking of early humans, we got to talk about Neanderthals.
Oh, yeah. They always get this bad rap, right? Like these brute meat eaters.
Yeah, the caveman stereotype.
But wasn't there some research recently?
Oh, yeah, the research on their teeth, it shows they actually had pretty diverse diets.
So they weren't just chomping on woolly mammoth legs all day.
Nope. Alongside meat, they ate plants. Mushrooms, nuts, berries.
Like a paleo diet, but way before it was trendy.
Right. And get this, there's even evidence they used medicinal plants.
So they were like the original herbalists.
Seems like it. They knew way more about plants than we give them credit for.
Okay, so we've got these early humans, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, figuring out fire, cooking, and getting pretty sophisticated with their food.
They were learning.
But the next chapter, this is where things really change.
Oh, yeah. Here comes the big shift.
The agricultural revolution.
Around 10,000 BCE, in this area called the Fertile Crescent.
The Fertile Crescent, that's in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, like parts of modern-day Iraq, Syria, Turkey. Humans go from nomadic hunter-gatherers
To settled farmers.
massive shift, and it all revolves around food.
So what made this Fertile Crescent so, fertile?
It had it all. Rich soil, good climate, access to water.
Like winning the environmental lottery.
Seriously. And this allowed people to grow crops. Wheat, barley, lentils, peas, all that good stuff. And they domesticated animals, sheep, goats, cattle.
So from chasing mammoths to planting seeds, what drove that change?
Security, I think. Imagine having a steady food supply right there. No more risky hunts, no more wandering to find food.
It's got to be a relief.
Right. It let people settle down, build communities, stay put.
Wow, so they literally planted the seeds of civilization.
They did, and this shift, we're still feeling it today. Agriculture led to population growth, villages, then cities, and then...
Complex societies.
Exactly.
Amazing. The article talks about some early civilizations that were totally shaped by food.
Oh yeah, some really interesting ones. Let's start with the Sumerians, ancient Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization.
That's the one. They were all about barley, wheat, lentils.
So basically, bread and stew.
Pretty much. But here's the cool part. They developed writing.
They did.
And guess why?
To write down their recipe.
Well, maybe. But one big reason was to keep track of their crops, their trade, all that.
So food led to record keeping, to writing itself.
It's all connected.
What other ancient cultures come to mind?
Oh, Egypt. Definitely. Everything there revolved around the Nile River.
The Nile, their lifeline.
Absolutely. Their whole agricultural system depended on those annual floods.
Those floods were huge, right? Bringing all that fertile silt.
Exactly. Made the land super productive.
What were they growing?
Wheat, barley, the essentials. Use them for bread and beer.
Bread and beer. Sounds like the foundations of a good time.
Haha. They were essential, but more than that.
What do you mean?
For the Egyptians, those weren't just food and drink.
They were sacred.
Yes. They offered them to the gods, put them in tombs for the afterlife.
Wow, so intertwined with their whole belief system.
Totally. And we can't forget the Indus Valley civilization.
You were in modern-day Pakistan and India, right?
That's right. And those guys, they were super advanced with their agriculture.
They were known for their cities, their planning.
Yeah, incredible urban planning. But their food systems were something else.
What did they do?
They had these complex irrigation canals, a whole network. They grew wheat, barley, rice, even cotton.
Wow.
And get this, they were among the first to figure out crop rotation and food preservation.
Wait, that sounds like something we're just figuring out now, like sustainable farming.
They were ahead of their time. It all allowed them to support these large cities, made them one of the most advanced civilizations back then.
It's incredible. From mammoth hunts to meticulously planned crops. What a journey so far.
It's just the beginning, though.
Oh, I know. What's next?
Get ready for spices.
Okay, things are about to get interesting.
More than interesting, things are about to get spicy.
I can't wait. Okay, so we're stepping into the world of the spice trade, and this is where food really goes global, right?
Yeah, it's like food goes on an adventure. Imagine a time when certain spices, oh man, they were more valuable than gold. Seriously, more valuable than gold. I mean, we're talking pepper, cinnamon, cloves, things we just, like, sprinkle on our food now.
Exactly. But back then, they were prized possessions, both for cooking and medicine.
So it wasn't just about making things taste good.
No, not at all. Think about it. No refrigeration back then. So spices, they were essential for preserving food.
Oh, right. Keep those nasty bacteria away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they could mask off flavors if things were starting to go bad. Plus, lots of spices were believed to have, healing properties.
Oh, right. In a time when, like, getting sick could be really serious.
Exactly. So these spices, they were seen as like miracle cures almost, like liquid gold.
Wow. So they were flavor enhancers, preservatives, and medicine all in one tiny package.
Pretty much. And that demand, it created this incredible network of trade routes. We're talking the Silk Road.
The Silk Road. Man, I've always pictured those camel caravans, winding their way through deserts and mountains, all loaded up with treasures. It was a huge undertaking, for sure. This vast network, it connected Asia with Europe, and for centuries, it was this vital link for trading spices, silk, all kinds of stuff.
So it wasn't just about food, it was about connecting cultures too.
Absolutely. The Silk Road facilitated all that exchange for centuries, but then things really kick into high gear with the age of exploration. We're talking the 15th to 17th century.
Oh yeah, that's when all those intrepid explorers hit the scene. Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Magellan. They were all driven by this quest for spices, right?
Yes. They were searching for new sea routes to the east, trying to bypass those land routes that were controlled by, well, other empires. And these discoveries, man, they completely reshaped the world.
It's amazing. The quest for flavor literally led to the discovery of new continents.
And to a huge shift in global trade, too.
So what happened when these new sea routes were established? Did spices just start flowing freely?
Oh, yeah. Europe went spice crazy. Pepper, cloves, cinnamon, it all flooded the markets. And it wasn't just about the food itself.
What do we mean?
It was about power and wealth. Control of the spice trade, that became the big game everyone wanted to win.
So those little peppercorns really were a source of conflict.
You bet. And one of the biggest players was the Dutch East India Company, founded in 1602. And they weren't just a trading company, they were like a powerhouse.
They had their own army and navy.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, they were like a corporate giant, but with serious military might. And they pretty much had a monopoly on the spice trade, especially in Indonesia, where cloves and nutmeg came from.
It's mind-blowing how a company built on spices could wield that much power.
It really is. The spice trade had this massive impact, shaping global trade routes, fueling colonialism, even leading to innovations in shipbuilding and navigation.
So all those spices really did change the world. But I know there's another major event that really shook things up. The Columbian Exchange, right? Oh yeah, the Columbian Exchange, that's a turning point in food history. It all starts in 1492, when Columbus reaches the Americas. And it leads to this massive exchange of, well, everything. Plants, animals, diseases, unfortunately, between the Old World, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the New World, the Americas.
So this is like the ultimate food swap. What kind of culinary treasures crossed the ocean during that time?
Think about some of the foods we take for granted today. Tomatoes. Those came from the Andes in South America. Now they're like the heart of Italian cooking.
I can't even picture Italian food without tomatoes. What else made the trip across the Atlantic?
Potatoes, for one.
Right.
Originally from Peru, they become a staple food in Europe, especially in Ireland. Of course, the Irish potato famine, that's a tragic reminder of what can happen when you rely too heavily on one crop.
Yeah, sobering reminder of how important it is to have a variety of foods.
And let's not forget about chocolate. Cacao beans, they're native to Mesoamerica. The Maya and Aztecs, they revered cacao.
They drank it as a bitter drink, right? Not like the sweet chocolate we have now.
Yeah, it was a different experience back then. But when Europeans got a taste of chocolate, well, they were hooked. It became a luxury item, super popular.
I can understand why. But this exchange wasn't just one way, was it? What went from the old world to the Americas?
Things like wheat, sugar, and coffee, sugarcane especially, it thrived in those tropical climates of the Caribbean and South America. It became a major, major cash crop.
But sugar, it has a pretty dark history too, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. Sugar production, it required a lot of labor. And that fueled the transatlantic slave trade, which brought millions of Africans to the Americas in horrible conditions.
It's a reminder that the story of food, it's not always a happy one. There are dark chapters, and we have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another turning point in our food journey, the Industrial Revolution.
So this is where things get really mechanized. We go from the farm to the factory. How did all those technological advancements change the way we produce and eat food?
The 18th and 19th centuries, man, they see all these amazing innovations. The steam engine, for example. It powered trains, ships. Food could be transported over huge distances.
So food could travel farther and faster than ever before?
Yeah.
Were there other inventions that really shook things up?
Oh, yeah. Think about all the new farm equipment that came about. Tractors, reapers, threshers. They were powered by steam, later by combustion engines. And that replaced a lot of manual labor, made farming way more efficient.
It's a huge shift from hand-sown fields to fields being harvested by machines.
Totally. And then there's canning. That was a game changer. Think about being able to preserve food, fruits, vegetables, meats for a long time.
That must have been revolutionary.
It made food more available year-round, and, you could ship it to all sorts of places.
So canned goods, they were basically the first convenience food.
In a way, yeah. And you also have advancements in milling technology, which led to the mass production of refined white flour, it became super popular. And then there's pasteurization. That process, it used heat to kill bacteria in milk, other liquids.
So it made those products safer to drink, and they lasted longer too.
Exactly. The Industrial Revolution, it transformed the entire food system. From how it was produced, to how it was processed, to how it ended up on our plates.
But did people's diets change too? Did they start eating different things?
Oh, yeah. With all this mass production and these new ways to preserve food, process foods, they became much more common. Instant coffee, condensed milk, canned soups, things like that.
So it wasn't just about how food was produced, it was about what people were eating too.
Right. The Industrial Revolution, it really laid the groundwork for the modern food system we have today, both the good and the bad.
It's a complicated legacy, that's for sure.
Mm.
But we're still moving forward in time, right?
Mm.
What comes next in our food story?
Well, as we head into the 20th century, we see the rise of, you guessed it, fast food.
Ah, yes. Burgers, fries, milkshakes. How did this whole fast food craze start?
It's a really interesting story, I think, because it reflects how life was changing in the 20th century. Things were speeding up, especially in the US. You had the rise of the automobile, more people living in cities,
Yeah.
and everyone wanted things to be fast and convenient.
So cars, cities, and a need for speed. That's the perfect recipe for fast food.
You got it. And when we talk about fast food, we got to give a shout out to White Castle. Founded in 1921, they're often seen as the first true fast food chain.
White Castle, those are the ones with those little square burgers, right?
Yeah, those iconic sliders. They focused on making a lot of food, making it the same every time, and keeping it cheap.
Sounds familiar, right?
Definitely. But when you talk about the king of fast food, you got to talk about McDonald's. Their story is the classic, right?
And McDonald Brothers, and then Ray Kroc is like a
Well,
legend.
right. The McDonald brothers, Richard and Maurice, they come up with this speedy service system in the 1940s. They made food prep super efficient, like assembly line stuff.
So speed and consistency, that was their thing.
Exactly. And then Ray Kroc comes along, milkshake salesman at the time, and he sees what the McDonald brothers have created, and he's like, this is it.
He saw the potential and ran with it big time.
Totally. And with franchising, he takes McDonald's from a small operation to, well, a global empire. By the 1960s, Big Macs and Golden Arches are popping up everywhere.
It wasn't just burgers, right? You had pizza, fried chicken, tacos. It was like a fast food explosion.
That's right. Domino's, Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell, they all figured out how to make food that was convenient, affordable, and people loved it. It became a huge part of modern culture.
It's crazy how these empires built on fast food have become so ingrained in our lives. But I think as we head toward the end of the 20th century and into the 21st, people start to think differently about food, right?
Yeah, for sure. People started getting concerned about industrial food production, about the health impacts, the environmental impacts, and that leads to all these new movements, a push for more sustainable, more ethical food choices.
So we've gone from those ancient spice routes to the rise of fast food. And now we're at this point where people are questioning the system. What does that look like? What's the next chapter? All right, so we've traveled from mammoth hunts to the Golden Arches, but now let's dig into how food ties into social structures.
Yeah, it's like food's not just about what we eat. It's about the whole, like, the who, the where, and the how of eating.
Right, like who gets to eat what, where do they eat it, what are the rituals around it?
Exactly. And all of that reflects back on society itself.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. Where do we even begin?
Well, think about it this way. Food often mirrors the power dynamics within a society. Like, go way back, ancient civilizations.
Okay, I'm picturing like Roman feasts and Egyptian pharaohs.
Exactly. The elite, they got the fancy stuff, spices, meats, imported wines.
And everyone else.
They were eating basic staples, whatever kept them going.
So even back then, food was a status symbol.
Totally. It's a way to show, hey, look at me, I've got access to these rare and delicious things. It wasn't just about taste.
It was about power.
Resources, showing off your place in society.
And then, fast forward to colonialism.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other layer.
European powers come in. They disrupt indigenous food practices, impose their own systems.
And that legacy, it still affects food systems around the world.
Yeah, it's a reminder that access to good food, it's not a given for everyone.
Sadly not. But even amidst all that, food becomes a powerful way to express identity,
Like cultural pride.
Exactly. Think about soul food in the African American community.
Or like the importance of traditional Mexican food in the U.S.
It's about heritage, about holding on to your roots.
It's resistance, in a way.
It is. And sometimes food's role in social structures is more rigid.
What do you mean?
Like in India, with the caste system, certain foods are acceptable, others aren't, depending on your social standing.
Wow, so food is really embedded in those hierarchies.
It's deep. But food can also bring people together, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Holidays, celebrations.
Thanksgiving, Eid al-Fitr. Shared meals, they create a sense of community, belonging.
Absolutely. Food can connect us across cultures, too.
Right. Think about, like, the slow food movement. They're using food to advocate for change, for sustainability.
It's amazing how food can spark those conversations.
It's a powerful tool. Speaking of the future, though, that's the big question, right?
How do we feed everyone, especially with a growing population and a changing climate?
Yeah, our article digs into that. It's a mix of challenges and innovations. We've got to deal with climate change, water scarcity, less land for agriculture, and we got to feed like 10 billion people by 2050.
That's a lot of mouths to feed. What are some solutions people are working on?
Well, there's vertical farming, growing food indoors in these stacked layers. bringing the farm to the city.
I've seen those, like futuristic farms and skyscrapers.
It's happening. And then there's lab-grown meat. That one's a bit more controversial.
Yeah, meat grown in a lab.
The idea is to reduce the impact of animal farming, less land, less emissions, maybe even less ethical concerns.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. Are there other ideas out there, like really out of the box?
People are looking at alternative proteins, insects, algae.
Insects, you mean like crickets and mealworms?
Some cultures already eat insects, and they're actually a really efficient source of protein. Environmentally, they're way better than traditional meat.
It's definitely something to think about. Maybe not for everyone, though.
Haha, maybe. Technology's going to play a huge role too, though.
How so?
Well, there's 3D food printing.
3D printing for food.
It's coming. Imagine machines that print out food like pureed vegetables, dough, all in these precise shapes and textures.
So customized meals printed on demand.
Exactly. And it could reduce waste, too. Plus, with globalization, we're seeing all these culinary traditions mixing. Fusion cuisine is getting more and more interesting.
Wow, what a journey. From hunting mammoths to 3D printed meals, food has shaped our world in ways we can barely imagine.
And it's still evolving. The choices we make about food today, they're going to have a huge impact on the future.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from prehistoric diets to the future of food. It's a story of innovation, adaptation, and of course, deliciousness.
And it's a story that we're all a part of. Every time we sit down to eat, we're participating in this long, incredible history of food.
That's a great way to put it. So, after this deep dive, what will you do? How will you contribute to a better food system? Think about it, explore, be curious, and make conscious choices. The future of food, it's in our hands. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey, and until next time, keep on exploring.